like, I don't want to right now, but we're just going to have to do it. Please tell me somebody got called for him.
I hope so. That was nasty out there just now.
Okay, so here's the situation. You guys know I scored an interview today with Chris Caliber. We were going to talk about the Downtown Throwdown main event and whatnot, but apparently all that meant is that Zodiac knew where Chris Caliber was going to be because the bomb shelter just stormed in here a couple minutes ago, and Chris is really hurt.
I mean, they took his knee. Chris was coming. He just was coming here for the live stream. They took him by the knee, dropped him as he was coming up the stairs. He
fell like halfway down the stairs. Well, I think I turned our mics up too much. Oh, my Lord.
I mean, the beatdown that ensued after that was it was nasty, people. I mean, it just now right outside in our offices. I think Commissioner Lowe is working with the situation right now.
We're starting our show off tonight at this point without Commissioner Lowe. Hopefully he'll be able to join us a little bit later. But the fact of the matter is the situation right now is very serious. And Chris Caliber's health is really up in the air right now. I don't know. It was the same knee that he completely blew out just a few years ago. That at least I think that was the knee. It was his left, right that he had.
Yeah, right. His first step, and it had to be the bomb shelter that did that. That was clearly the bomb shelter.
And so Chris is being taken to a medical facility. I believe as we speak, Chris Lowe is out there working on making that happen. Please, right now, send your well wishes to Chris and to somebody needs to call Karma.
Oh.
Yeah. So that is the situation as it stands right now. Hopefully we'll figure out some more when Commissioner Lowe is able to get in here. And I don't need Chris Lowe here to tell you guys that if we look at my notes, it was pretty obvious, I think, to everybody that we were about to announce the payoff and Chris Caliber versus Zodiac was going to be our main event for this month, but right now I don't know if that's happening. Well, maybe Chris Lowe can give us some answers. Dude, what is going on out there?
This is a place of business.
Okay.
Yes, it's wrestling. I am not a wrestler. I don't conduct my business in the middle of the ring. I don't expect people who work in Emerge to come to my building and screw up plans or live stream, anything else. This is a place that business is taken care of. And what just happened is, quite frankly, Zodiac Bomb Shelter, you're suspended. And it's taken me, I need a reason not to fire you. What just happened out there was crap. I got a guy here who drove all the way to do an interview to talk about, you guys were talking, there was going to be a main event of Caliber versus Zodiac for the Emerge title at
Payoff, yeah.
Payoff.
Aptly named, right?
Right. Obviously, Zodiac and the Bomb Shelter had an idea that's what was going to happen. But to come into my building, disrespect me, disrespect this company, folks, I need a reason not to fire you. And you should be so thankful you have the Emerge title right now, Zodiac, or I tell you, be gone. So you are suspended indefinitely. This is not the way we do business.
No, one thing that Emerge has prided themselves on from the beginning, and, Lurch, you were there at that first show, we get things done in the ring. Mm-hmm. And the fact of the matter is, ever since the bomb shelter has come in here, they have felt like they didn't need to play by the rules.
You know, and I get questioned. I got questioned when I did it. Why bring Zodiac back? I mean, he threw fireballs, he injured people. I bring him back because the dude's talented, obviously. He's won the Emerge Championship. And I should have known a few months ago when he put his hands on me that this wasn't going to work.
And especially when you bring Jason Saint in to control him, and look what happened.
Yes, Saint. Why aren't you doing your job?
Well, he's doing his job. He has defended the Emerge Championship so far. You got to give Zodiac some credit. He still does have the championship on him, Commish. I mean, you're suspending the champion right now.
Damn right I'm suspending him. You don't come to my building and injure people. If you're going to injure somebody, you do it in the ring.
It's understandable.
Well, obviously, we're going to announce the 7 matches that we still have.
Mark that last one off.
Yeah, I guess this will be probably our main event now.
Definitely. That's
All right.
going to be our main event.
Do me a favor, text Dean real quick and tell him to change up the flyer. We're supposed to release that tonight.
Oh, good call.
So we're going to announce the 7 other matches. One of these matches originally, it doesn't really matter which one. One of these was going to be the pre-show match, but these are the 7 matches we have. We're going to add a new one, whether that's on the pre-show or what. There's a lot of things up in the air right now, but the fact of the matter is, and let's check and be absolutely, sure that we don't miss any news on Chris.
Obviously, that's the most important thing, the health of Caliber. I mean, his left knee was obliterated a few years ago, and they knew it, and they targeted it.
One thing that we can always say about Zodiac, he likes to play the monster thing, but he is very intelligent, and he knew exactly where to go. But at this point, all we can do is try to compose ourselves and move on. And Chris, we did have a very successful downtown throwdown, and there is a lot right now that we, situation aside, we do have to be thankful for.
Absolutely. Easily the best attended downtown throwdown we've ever had.
Best attended event, period.
Ever.
Yeah.
Was that crowd hot or what?
Oh my Lord, all night long.
You didn't get to see it because you were in Nashville.
No, I was in Asheville, actually, Commish. Yeah, thanks for that clearly communicated advice and direction.
Yeah, thanks for the clearly communicated action. But
yeah, thanks to everybody who came out. That was we made a dream come true, and we raised money for a good cause, and there was some great action that took place that night.
And DSI has made sure to have us tell each and every one of you, the Emerge fans, how thankful they are, how happy they are, and we would be remiss not to thank our friends at Children's Replay for donating a number of kids' toys. A lot of our Emerge roster, ironically, in this case, including the bomb shelter for donating merchandise to the raffle, and Guitar City for donating that beautiful guitar that actually my friend Keith from Indiana Sports Radio Network, who I appeared on his show promoting Downtown Throwdown, he actually won the guitar, which was pretty cool. And our biggest thanks to Groby's Home Furnishings here in Columbus. They donated over $1,000 worth of merchandise that a lucky fan went home with, not to mention ringside at every Emerge show now you're going to see a beautiful 65-inch TV that all of our sponsors and all of our entrance videos will be played on. That is also courtesy of Groby's. So when it came down to it, Groby's made about a $2,500 investment in Emerge. And I'm not trying to throw out numbers, but the fact of the matter is you need to support these guys because they took a chance on the fact that our fans could make a difference in their company, and they're just a relatively new business starting out, so it's more important than ever, Chris, that we support the people who support wrestling.
Absolutely. The fact that we've got a Grobitron now is just awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I guess let's get to the 7 matches that we do have, and of course, watch the Emerge Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We are going to hopefully have news soon regarding what's actually happening. But actually, hold on, Chris. I think something just popped up for you.
Okay. Caliber's leg has been stabilized, and he is being worked on as we speak. So, I'm not really sure what his condition is at this point, but they've got it stabilized.
Well, hopefully, what I'm hoping is that there's no tear.
Yeah.
If there's a tear, then we have, and not to beat a dead horse here, but I think September was going to be Caliber's time. He got so close that first time, and I mean, Lurch, you were there, and with all of your cynicism aside, you've got to admit, if the bomb shelter had not intervened, there's a legitimate chance Chris would have walked away with that one.
Oh, he was close, but you know what? He just showed too much emotion in that match. I feel like he let his emotions get the best of him there, and you know, he just didn't have it that night. But, you know, you got to give it credit to the teamwork that is the horror show.
Yeah. So, speaking of teamwork, as we actually try to segue our way into this thing, we have a very interesting match starting us off with the new Hellfire Club 2.0, as it were, versus the old Hellfire Club.
Yeah, the team of Dave Davidson, Joey Moore, and conniving Kenneth James against Warfare Jeremy Hadley, Cole Radrick, and Sage Phillips.
And this will be really interesting to see how these guys work together, that being Hadley, Radrick, and Phillips. We saw in the four-way at Downtown Throwdown that Radrick and Phillips worked together really well. And it's, number one, it's weird to hear the fans cheering both Cole Radrick and Sage Phillips, but I think they've really turned it around. Jeremy Hadley, that's still crazy for that matter. But
but Christopher Icon, he has put together a new and improved Hellfire Club. You all must admit that.
Well, I don't know the merits of the new Hellfire Club versus the old Hellfire Club, but I can tell you both teams are nothing to be messed with, and the addition recently of Dave Davidson, Lurch, only makes them stronger.
That's right.
So that is going to be, like, the thing about Sage and Cole is that back when they were originally here, they didn't really feel the need to bust out the more flashy parts of their arsenal because they felt as though the fans didn't deserve it. But with this change in attitude, Cole and Sage busted out some really impressive stuff downtown, and when they get back, and hopefully, you know, that machine still works, oiled as it might not be, I think that machine will still work with Hadley, and they're going to bust out some incredible stuff. Meanwhile, though, the new Hellfire Club, they're not about flash. They're about grit and ground and pound. So
yeah, specifically Davidson and James, they're just they get you in a corner, they're going to kick you until you can't get back up.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Dave Davidson with that roaring elbow he calls lights out, and Kenneth James with that amazing spear that has put a lot of people away. They can get you from both sides, sometimes at once.
Yeah.
So, and of course, I don't have any confirmation on this, but I assume otherwise, you know, from Chris Icon, the other member of the Hellfire Club, Johnny Stratton, will be, you know, ringside doing his thing, probably interfering. So they definitely have the numbers advantage by 2 to 3.
True.
Yeah, so...
But Hadley's been around the block.
yeah.
I imagine this is going to be a fairly even fight, numbers regardless.
Yeah, it's definitely... I think people have kind of been wanting to see this ever since the Hellfire Club come back.
Yeah.
And coming off of a show like Downtown Throwdown, I think it's the best place for the match. Next, though, we've got a number of places that we could start off this, but let's start with what happened at Downtown Throwdown between Jacob Johns, J.D. Mariani, and Nikki Mariani.
Yeah. Be a fly on the wall in the Mariani household.
Right? And, of course, you know, JD was going for what looked like a Vader bomb on Jacob Johns. He's on the second rope, and Nikki stops him. And Nikki Mariani made it a point to turn against her own husband, Lurch, stating, "You're not the monster. Jacob Johns is the monster."
I did not see that one coming. Wow. And this happened, of course, at Downtown Throwdown 3. I cannot believe I missed that.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on who is the monster, though?
I mean, obviously, the last we've seen it, clearly Jacob Johns is the true monster. He got Nikki to turn on her own husband. I mean, that let's be honest, that takes a monster, does it not?
For once, Lurch, I actually agree with you. But the fact of the matter is, Jacob Johns has now done something twice that no other person has been able to do. Left J.D. Mariani barely able to leave under his own power. Left him face down on the canvas, beaten, bruised, and broken. And spoiler alert, J.D. Mariani, not in this match. I understand that he's not ready to compete yet, and might not be for a little bit after several splashes from one Jacob Johns.
As well as the mental aspect of having your wife turn on you.
Yeah, he's got a lot, I think, going on. I think when he comes back, we're going to see an entirely new J.D. Mariani. If indeed he's able to come back. But a couple months ago, and we've been talking about this, when J.D. and Jake were having their one-upsmanship contest, I guess we would call it, a very brave, some Lurch would probably argue stupid young man came into the ring, hit a couple really decisive moves, and almost toppled both of, at the time, the Battle Beasts. And we've been trying to figure out who this kid was ever since that night. And I now understand that his name is Justin Myers, that you've tracked him down, and that he is going to be taking on Jacob Johns.
Kid's got moxie. Found out who he was, contacted him, didn't hesitate for an opportunity to get onto the Emerge roster and trying to do it by going through the Midwest Monster.
Not a bright decision, if you ask me.
It's definitely an uphill climb, but kid's got guts.
You know, though, actually, in doing a little bit of research on him, he's been around a couple years, and when he was trained, he was actually trained by the conniving one, Kenneth James, and former Outbreak #1 contender, Brett Havoc. And when you see him, you can see shades of both of them in him. He has, a flying game. He has a game where he obviously has some power behind him if he was able to almost take down both of the Battle Beasts. So I think this will be an interesting match. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what young Myers has. And
I think interesting is a good word.
Yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle, but we have seen with Jacob Johns, and especially in situations with Donnie Idol, who we're going to see later on this card, he can be toppled, and it can be done by a smaller guy. You chop that redwood down at the base, and you can fall him.
It's going to take a lot of chopping.
Especially by somebody making their Emerge debut, but considering most people, Lurch, would be shaking in their boots to even walk through the Emerge curtain, and he ran through the Emerge curtain unbeknownst to anybody and almost took down the Battle Beast, you've got to say the confidence factor is at least going to be on his side.
Oh, definitely. But when it's a one-on-one competition and you're staring down the Midwest monster, Jacob Johns, in the ring, that bell rings, yeah, good luck.
Yeah, there's something, to Jacob Johns' credit, there's something completely different from being blindsided versus staring right in the face. And with Nikki back at his side, and obviously she's buying into the guy if she turned on her own husband, it's going to be a hard hill to overcome. But honestly, I think Justin is the kind of kid who can do it.
I don't know. You got to think of Jacob Johns. What kind of high is he on right now, knowing that he fell the Mastodon?
Yeah.
And you're right. He could be overlooking Justin Myers. So you're absolutely right. Anything can happen.
Well, up next, we have another one of those faces who has been showing up in Emerge recently and has really been making a name for himself in Ron Mathis, who is currently undefeated in Emerge, originally being able to defeat Sid Fabulous and then subsequently Pompano Joe. And he is going to be going up against Bruce Gray, which Bruce Gray was originally going to be his opponent at Emerge 22. And unfortunately, Bruce Gray got injured, but he is now completely healed, and he's ready to go and make his name in Emerge. And I've seen a couple things from Bruce Gray, and he is incredibly impressive. So I think he's got a chance against Mathis.
Well, I like Bruce Gray. He definitely knows he's a talented wrestler. He's in there. He's got that. I just love the attitude about him when he's in there. He's really a star. He's really a shining star.
Yeah, he's got that attitude that was brought up by the old school, but his style has just enough flash and just enough new school in it that he is really effective. And Chris, was this a no-brainer for you booking this once he came back from injury?
Oh, not without a doubt. If you're good enough to be booked for a show and you can't make it due to injury, you definitely are good enough to come back.
Yeah, definitely.
And as Lurch mentioned, the guy is very good and very confident in his abilities, for good reason.
Mm-hmm. So, up next, championship match, one of, well, I guess two championship matches here. And this is a match that on paper, and it's going to get a little dicey here, but stay with me. On paper, this match almost seems like a little bit of like, oh, because we've seen it a few times before. But there is a whole lot of outside noise in this match that makes it, I think, one of the more intriguing matches on the card.
Without a doubt. Pretty perfect. Going up against BAD for the Emerge Tag Team Championship. Pretty perfect. Former champions, deserving of a proper rematch against the champs. This will be the first time since this is the first time they've gone after BAD since the injury. So
yeah, since obviously they lost it and they weren't at 100%, they deserve this chance. But with that being said, Pretty Perfect is not on the same page right now.
Oh, they've had a minor setback. You know, they've had a little miscommunications, but this is an Emerge Tag Team Championship match. They're going to come together. They're going to go for the gold. They're going to take down BAD. They got a plan. They'll be fine.
Well, Lurch, all things considered, you weren't there at Downtown Throwdown when Austin Tyler Morris was high-fiving the fans. He was interacting with them. He was playing to them and received a berating pre-match, during the match, and post-match from one Jordan Cage. Jordan Cage is not happy at all with ATM right now, but I do agree with you. If they can reel it in and work together, I think Pretty Perfect is one of, if not the strongest tag teams Emerge has ever seen. They know, Lurch, that old school style, that Memphis style that you broke in on cutting off the ring, using tags, 5 counts to your advantage, and making sure that your opponent does not even have a chance to get to their partner.
And part of that style is not being distracted by the morons sitting ringside. Let's be honest. Don't listen to the people. You're there to win. Don't lose focus, and don't pander to the crowd. That's part of it.
Yeah, and that being said, though, I think something that I've noticed in the past few weeks is that ATM has become a completely different guy. I mean, I don't know, this might be going off script a little bit, but the other day I got a Facebook message from ATM like, hey, want to play NBA 2K? And I'm like, you're Austin Tyler Morris. You're not usually this nice. And we had a couple really good games, went to 5 overtimes, but that's not the point. The fact of the matter is he's becoming a lot more sociable. He's becoming nicer, and I don't know what happened. I don't know how it happened, but it seems like he's morphing into a completely separate person. I mean, he came out to My Prerogative by Bobby Brown at the last show, specifically requested that be his entrance theme, and even though, bless his heart, he can't dance, he gave it a really good shot.
It sounds to me like he's losing focus. He needs to come together with his teammate Jordan Cage. He needs to get that eye on the gold, or else BAD, they're going to hold on to him.
Yeah, Chris, because you got to be on the same page if you're going to defeat BAD. I mean, it took when BAD lost their championships the first time, it took the perfect match from their opponents.
Right.
And then as soon as they got another shot, they took it, which outside, interference, Bobby Olson, Jerry Andrews, whatever, but the fact of the matter is they took that match.
Right, with BAD, you need to be on your game 100%, and even that's not going to be enough a lot of times. You need some luck.
Yeah, well, we'll see if Pretty Perfect is indeed pretty lucky, which they would argue they don't need luck, but BAD is a formidable force, and I actually think it works to Pretty Perfect's advantage as much as I might not agree with it, that they, especially Jordan Cage, have a tendency to go behind the ref's back, for lack of a better term, cheat a little bit. And because that's a lot of times, if you're facing Pretty Perfect face-to-face, chest-to-chest, you're not going to win that overall fight, that overall power game. And sometimes with Mike in there, you're not going to win the flying game either.
We shall see on September 9th at Parkside. I mean, this is going to be a match that people are not going to stop talking about. That's for sure.
And that match, of course, has a lot of history behind it. The next match has more recent history behind it as well. And I figured this is a perfect time, actually, to talk about, our DVDs and merchandise that we have in front of us, because it leads into it perfectly. We have a few of the Emerge shirts left, and we have copies of every show from this year up till June, and we will have June and August ready to go with the next show.
Right.
But right now we have, I believe there are 4 of them up there, which Emerge 18, which was Emergence Day with the tournament, was something really spectacular. Aftermath was a really good show, and Blowback, which is 21, was a really, really good show as well. But let me tell you what, guys, seriously, if you don't have a copy of Emerge 20, that is the best show I've ever been to in my life, and that's including the WWE and ROH shows that I've gone to. Like, that was an amazing, as a matter of fact, and, not to toot anybody else's horn here, but earlier today I was watching one of those old Hardy's Edge and Christian ladder matches, and it made me go back and watch the ladder match from Reach for the Sky from Emerge 20, and that match rivals the greatest ladder matches in wrestling history for me. That, and not to mention you had the debut of Ron Mathis on that card, and you had all kinds of things going on that card that were really incredibly special, top to bottom. There wasn't a bad show. There wasn't a bad match. But in that ladder match, we got the scariest moment in Emerge history for me, and especially I know during your commissionership, this has been the scariest thing you've had to deal with, when Trevor Court pile drove Mark Vandy through a table, Lurch, about 3 feet away from you.
That was the loudest noise I've heard at Parkside Elementary since we've started working shows there. I mean, it was incredible. I don't know how Mark Vandy survived that. I mean, his head smacked straight through to the ground.
Yeah, through the table, down to the floor. Thank God one of our mats were there. Because if that was the hardwood floor, Mark Vandy, like, literally, and not to oversell it, but literally might not be alive. So Trevor Court used that to his advantage, and he has had swagger out the roof ever since then. And at Downtown Throwdown 3, he won against Johnny Justice in pretty decisive fashion.
Yeah.
And I would say he's on a roll at this point.
Yeah, the greatest show on earth is proving why he's living up to that moniker.
That being said, though, Mark Vandy came back at the June show in a match that is not talked about for how good it was, that three-way with Donnie and Kyle and Mark. Obviously, there were a lot of things that happened directly after that match that kind of overshadowed it, but Mark Vandy put up a really good fight for the Outbreak Championship, and I was talking to him the other day, and I don't know what it is. I think it might have been the pile driver combined with losing, that championship opportunity, Chris. But Mark Vandy has turned into a completely different guy as well. He is not the same guy that we've been talking about. And he, told me he just wants to come back and perform and win for the fans. And I never expected Chris to hear that.
Me neither. Like you said, when he first joined Emerge, he was mean Mark Vandy. He was a mean dude, and he's still got all the skill in the world, but something's changed in that brain of his, and I don't know what to make of it, to be quite honest.
Yeah, perhaps literally, and I think we all have children in our family, so we've all probably been subjected to our own fair amount of SpongeBob, but I'm reminded of that episode where Patrick's head falls off and they put a completely different head on him and he's suddenly a scientist. Like, it's almost as if the fundamental wiring of Vandy's brain has just changed.
Well, when he called into the live stream, I guess it was 2 shows ago, you can tell that it was starting to get there. You can tell that things in his head were starting to tick around. He knew he came close to winning the Outbreak title at Emerge 20, and he demanded to be put in the match. And Commish, you listened to him. You didn't back down. I mean, you had to know something was different.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. But you can't say no to a guy that talented who is deserving.
Yeah, and Lurch, you mentioned earlier the fact that, going through that table, that was the loudest, thing you had ever heard at Emerge. I would dare say, and I won't dare say because it absolutely was overshadowed, a mere minute and a half, 2 minutes later, when Donnie Idol pulled down that title.
Mm-hmm.
And shoot, if you can almost die, going through a table and not get as big of a reaction as if the fans just like you, no matter what you believe and no matter what you believe about the fans, that'll change a person. So I think, Mark Vandy is, just wait until you see him. And I know it's really hard to imagine this guy as anybody other than who we know him as.
Me and Mark Vandy.
And it is incredibly, I know fans out there are reluctant to embrace him, but give him a chance, because this is a completely different guy. And not only that, personalities aside, Trevor Court versus Mark Vandy. Tell me it's not a good match. You know, that is going to be, I think we've got a lot of really, really good, interesting one-on-one encounters in this show, and our last two matches here, or I mean, the next two matches, who knows if they're what's going to happen there, but our next two matches, which are the last ones we'll be announcing here, including our new main event, are really interesting one-on-one matches. The first of which being a complete rematch from Downtown Throwdown 3. I think I knew this would be a sleeper match going into it, and it lived up to everything. Lennox Norris and Apollo Star put on a clinic. I think it's one of the better matches Emerge has ever put on, Chris. And you were sitting right there.
Yeah, that's one match where you can be oblivious to what's going on around you. You know, we had 1,000 some people around us, but everybody was focused in on what was going on inside the ring, and that is a testament to the talent of both of these guys.
Yeah, and like, being completely transparent, the way that, and again, this is going to sound like an insult at first, but stay with me, the way that wrestling fans are now, which I hate to make that generalization, but there are a lot of crowds out there that are really hard to win over with traditional grappling and that kind of athletic but almost amateur wrestling style display that they put on, but that crowd was hooked from the moment that they locked up. And you could see across that entire match, Lennox Norris got increasingly more and more frustrated. I think the first 5-6 minutes of that match, there was not even a punch thrown.
No.
But the first person to lose his cool, Lurch, was Lennox. He threw that first punch, and then after the match, when Apollo tried to shake his hands, Lennox walked away, and then came back, and then walked away again.
Well, I can't blame him. I mean, he is obviously frustrated, and I don't blame him for being frustrated. He's fed up with what's going on. He's been put in these situations time and time after again. And Apollo Star needs to understand Lennox Norris is dangerous. He is dangerous.
That being said, though, Apollo was in a very similar situation, I think, and we talked about this on both of our previous live streams. If there were two situations of people in Emerge that you could compare and it be almost mirrored, it's Lennox and Apollo. They both, had runs against Zodiac. They both ended up on the losing end of those runs, and the difference between Apollo and Lennox this time was how they were handling it. And Lennox, and I don't want to speak too strongly here, but to a certain extent you had to get the tone. He was kind of whining a little bit about his position, and Apollo took it in stride. That being said about Lennox, though, I think everything changed for him after that match, and I think he's going to come back and understand that saying things are going to change is not going to make them change. And I think that he's going to come back with an edge. And I don't think this match is going to be another grappling exhibition. I think these two guys are about ready to fight by this point.
I don't think there's a bout to it. I think you're pretty much right on. And not necessarily, it's not Apollo's choice. He'd be fine just wrestling. He was last
Always
show.
is, yeah.
Well, and Lennox Norris isn't just talking. He took that headset from you, put it on, and directed his communications directly to the Emerge audience And when we heard him say those words, you can tell right then he was a man on a mission, and he is not going to turn around.
Yeah, speaking of which, that if you want to hear exactly what he said, we were receiving a number of questions about what did he say when he picked up your mic. It is at the end of that Emerge 21 Blowback DVD, and it's hearing what he said at that point is almost worth the price of admission alone. That being said, now,
That's not going to be the main event anymore. Let's
Yeah.
move that to
yeah, so our de facto main event, although before we end this thing, I want to try to figure out if we can get another update on Chris, possibly before it's over. If our producer could check, possibly, and see. And you know what? As this whole thing goes down, it feels like it was almost meant to be. Because this match, I think Chris deserves to be a main event.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I know one guy who's been in several main events. I don't think this fellow has been in any of our main events.
No, but you know what?
He deserves a spot.
I think he deserves it. And these two guys have been going at it now ever since January. And many would say that this is a long time coming, and maybe this is the payoff, but
Possible torn ligaments
mm,
in his left knee. Won't know until tomorrow.
so I guess probably let's put it this way. Here, Chris.
Sorry.
Sorry that we have to step away, but like I said, things are still very much in a state of flux. And so what we decided is next Tuesday, Emerge Facebook and YouTube pages, we're going to figure out exactly what's going on with the bomb shelter, an update on Chris Caliber, which hopefully things aren't too serious. But nevertheless, our main event, and I think this clash and this payoff is worthy of a main event. And I think it's going to be one of Emerge's better matches. Outbreak Championship, Donnie Idol versus Kyle Maverick.
You said it just right, Casey. Both, this match would be a main event anywhere. And
I think the only match that could have been above this match as a main event is Chris Caliber versus Zodiac. But when it comes down to it, we really like to showcase our Outbreak Championship. And Donnie Idol is a fighting champion. He's a worthy champion. And Kyle Maverick is somebody who has consistently been this close to not only that title, but taking out Donnie Idol. And so I think we all saw a few months ago when Donnie Idol's championship celebration erupted into a brawl. There is no love lost, and you know, last time we were at Parkside at Emerge 22, we saw a really hard-hitting matchup between Zodiac and Chris Caliber. I think this is going to be in that echelon of matches where these two guys are not interested in wrestling. These two guys are not interested in flying right now. They're not interested in grappling. These two guys want to punch each other in the face until one of them can no longer get up. The question is that going to be Donnie Idol or is it going to be Kyle Maverick?
I got Kyle Maverick, I know, and you left one thing off the list. Kyle Maverick is interested in putting that gold belt around his waist, the Emerge Outbreak Championship this match is for. Kyle Maverick's been coming in since January. Eyes on that championship. He had a shot, but Now he's got Donnie Idol one-on-one.
Yeah, which, you know, a lot of people would say, oh, the Outbreak Championship is their secondary championship. Let me tell you what the Outbreak Championship is. The Outbreak Championship is just that. Somebody who is ready to break out and emerge, who is, you know, going to be somebody who's going to represent the company, represent, you know, the working people of the company. Not one name has held that title that we haven't heard great things from. First it was Ace Perry, then it was Jeremy Hadley, then it was Chris Caliber, and then Kenneth James, and now we have Donnie Idol. And that is that's an incredible lineage. It's arguably, and I mean, this is something you could go on and on about, but it's arguably a comparable, if not better, lineage than the Emerge Championship. I mean, a lot of really, really good wrestlers have held this championship, and, you know, Donnie Idol, former Emerge champion, Chris Caliber, like, it seems like as soon as he lost that Outbreak Championship and finished up his business with the Hellfire Club, he's right into the main event, and so it goes, and so it goes, Chris. It's a trampoline. It's a launching pad for your career.
And we talk about guys who not only want to be in Emerge, but once they're here, they want to reach the main event echelon. And you look at Kyle Maverick. He is a guy who has got all the tools in the world and could definitely be a top guy.
But we've seen that continually not go well for him. I mean, he was in the Outbreak title tournament early on last year, and he didn't make it. Then he had a best 2 out of 3 series with Anthony Totelli that was supposed to be his breakout moment, and he lost 2-0 in the best of 3 series, which, I mean, that almost always goes to a third match. Then he's in the Emerge Championship tournament, and that's his time. And he didn't break through, even though he severely injured Donnie Idol, which I'm sure we'll talk about that injury here in a second. And then the Outbreak Championship match he was in, he didn't quite get there. He is so hungry and ready to go right now. He is ready to do anything that it takes to cement his spot.
And September 9th at Parkside, we will see him get that spot and be the next Emerge Outbreak Championship.
And you got to wonder what is going on currently with Donnie Idol's neck and shoulder area. We know it's been a source of issue for him here ever since he was thrown into that, that turnbuckle post by one Kyle Maverick. He looked pretty good at Downtown Throwdown. Then again, he had 2 very good competitors in there with him who he could fall back on if he needed to. Not saying Donnie Idol needs to fall back on anybody, but, you know, when you've got a debuting guy like Rocky Jr. and when you have a guy who Donnie Idol considers his brother in Ricky Ruckus, I mean, these guys know each other like the back of their hand, trust each other absolutely, and it shows when they tag team together. And when Donnie needed out, Ricky came in. When Ricky needed out, Donnie came in. And so you didn't really get a chance to see if Donnie Idol's shoulder is really hurting him or not. But if Kyle Maverick sees even the faintest little hint of that injury,
all bets are off. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and Donnie Idol himself will admit to this. Ricky Ruckus would admit to this. Donnie's biggest weakness is he doesn't know when to back down. If he's hurting, he's not going to let anybody know. Somebody's going to have... Kyle Maverick is going to have to make him show a weakness. He's not going to go in there with a limp. It's going to all depend on what Kyle can inflict on Donnie.
To that point, though, to a certain extent, I think that is, while it is a weakness for Donnie that sometimes he might not know when to quit, I think it's a strength that he doesn't show that weakness sometimes, because a lot of times I've seen Donnie Idol back in the competitor's locker room limping around, icing his shoulder, and then as soon as he comes out there, he does not show it. And I've seen him walk out of those matches, the latter match included, as the winner, looking no worse for wear because he didn't show that weakness. The one thing, it's like they say, if you're attacked by a bear, don't show it that you're scared. And Donnie Idol will go down swinging if indeed he goes down, but Donnie Idol has had a great reign so far.
Well, a future champion like Kyle Maverick will pick off those weaknesses like a hyena, attack where he needs to, and there's no doubt he has a strategy going into this match.
Yeah, and I think if Kyle Maverick hits his stride, he'll be an Emerge champion one day. Period.
He definitely has the tools.
September 9th he will.
Well, as of right now, that is the Emerge 24 payoff card. I imagine we're going to have to figure out at least one more match to slide into another spot, and I'm sure we have competitors ready to go who are willing to fight, and we will see on that. We'll also hopefully make that announcement Tuesday in a video that I will come and film with you, be able to sit down, talk to you, figure out exactly what's going on. That being said, though, even with what was going to be the main event removed, this is an amazing card. It's absolutely amazing. Just to run it down one more time, and then we will leave you in the capable hands of Chris Lowe. Hellfire Club, Dave Davidson, Moore, and James going against Hadley, Cole, and Sage. That being the old Hellfire Club, generations almost colliding. And that is going to be an incredible match. Jacob Johns against newcomer Justin Myers. A lot of questions going into that match. We'll see if Justin Myers is able to topple the beast, but either way, Jacob Johns is on a roll. Ron Mathis versus Bruce Gray, and I know, we didn't talk about this nearly as much, but, I mean, if Ron Mathis wins this match, I got to imagine he's getting somewhere up there in the Outbreak title picture. I mean, he is red hot right now.
Absolutely.
So let's see if that continues, or if Bruce Gray is able to knock him off, that might spell wonders for his career as well. Payoff being the name of the game. Pretty Perfect versus BAD one more time. Another one with a lot of outside noise on the part of Pretty Perfect, but BAD is ready to get in there and defend their titles like the champions that they are, and that's going to be an incredible match. Trevor Court versus Mark Vandy. Anytime somebody pile drives you through a table off the apron, I think you're going to have, quote-unquote, unfinished business for the rest of your life. But the fact of the matter is it's going to explode at Emerge 24 Payoff, and these two big brutes, who both have a little bit of flash in their game, are going to beat each other up. Lennox Norris versus Apollo Star. Lennox Norris is bona fide angry. Chip on his shoulder, and he's ready to prove himself against Apollo. Meanwhile, Apollo Star floating around. He wants to get back up into that Emerge Championship picture, I'm sure, so that is going to be an incredible match where both men have something to prove. And finally, in your main event, we are going to have Donnie Idol versus Kyle Maverick in what you have to imagine will be their ultimate clash for the Outbreak Championship. A better card in Indiana, in the Midwest, you will not find.
Without a doubt.
So, Lurch, as always, hopefully you'll be able to end this out, and I'm sure you'll have a couple more words to say about our situation from earlier. And, guys, thank you so much for watching, and here's Chris Lowe.
Thank you, Casey. Folks, first off, I apologize for all the excess activity, extracurricular activity. Casey said it all. Emerge 24, 7 great matches on the card for now. We will be looking at adding another one. Don't know if it's going to be pre-show, don't know if it's going to be the main show, but we are going to be looking to add one more match. Emerge 24 Payoff. Be quite frank, I've got to sign off here, and I've got to go check on Chris Caliber. send all your well wishes to him, and we'll have hopefully more information on his injury and Emerge 24 payoff on Tuesday. Thanks.